OOPS or object-oriented programming is a programming concept. Object-oriented programming is a programming paradigm which revolves around objects. The objects can contain data and behavior. An object is something which is the very fundamental construct of Java. Any Java is started by declaring a class, and then to perform any action of the class, we have to create an object of that class. So this is the fundamental construct of Java. Hence, Java is a object-oriented programming language. But object-oriented programming language does not just stop at object. Apart from that, object-oriented programming mainly provides a good structure for writing a reusable software which can be easily understood. For example, if you're looking into a code, it is much more easier to understand an object-oriented programming language compared to legacy procedural languages, because things are constructed in much smaller and easily understandable chunks of code. And it can be also extended very easily. And as I was mentioning, it is not just object which is the main constituents of an object-oriented programming. There are four main pillars of object-oriented programming. And those are abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. In today's video, I'm going to talk only about abstraction, and in subsequent videos, I'll cover rest of the topics. Abstraction, as the name suggests, it is used for hiding the unnecessary information from an object and expose only the information that is needed. And that applies to both operation as well as data of an object. If we take a real life example, let's take the case of a car. In case of a car, when we drive a car, we are just using the engine ignition and then a brake and accelerator to drive around, along with changing a gear. Now, how the gear change, acceleration, or brake internally works with respect to using the gasoline to take it to the engine and then engine running the wheels, those are something which are completely abstracted from us. And we, as a user of the car, do not care about those. We just care about the exposed attributes of a car as well as the exposed operations. For example, pressing a brake or accelerator, or even using a steering wheel. To demonstrate this, I have this class called user. Now, user class at this point, it's a normal class. In Java, there are two ways we can implement abstraction. It can be either implemented through an abstract class or through an interface. So first, we're going to start with an abstract class. In this case, we can make the user class as an abstract class. Now, the interesting thing about an abstract class is that an abstract class cannot be used on its own to create an object. For example, if we go here and try to create a new object for user, we are going to get an error, and it says cannot initiate the type user. The reason for that, it is an abstract class. The one thing is that user has 3 parameters for the constructor. So I'm going to go ahead and add the 3 parameters to show you that even after adding the 3 parameters, we are still going to get the error, because it is not about missing parameter. It is about that the class is abstract. And if we get back to user class and get rid of abstract, now if we go here, we see that the error is gone. So let us get back the abstract and see the error continues. So now the idea is not to use the abstract class as is. The idea is to create a class which is going to derive from this abstract class. Now, what is the meaning of derive? The meaning of derive is when one class derives from another class, it becomes a child class of the parent class. So in this case, the abstract class user becomes a parent class, and the class which is going to derive from that is going to become child class. And by deriving from user, the child class is going to inherit all the behavior of the base class. So let's go ahead and create a new class, and let's name this class as developer. Now here we can create a public class developer, and as I said, the goal of developer is to derive from the base class user. So for deriving one class from another, we are going to use a keyword called extends. So once we say extends and we give user here, what is happening? Developer class now is a child class of the user class. So here you can see a red squiggly. It's basically a compile time error. It says implicit superclass constructor user is undefined. So we have to define the constructor, because remember the user class has a constructor. So we have to define that here because that's an abstract class. Now that is one of the thing. If a base class has a constructor or base class has multiple constructor, all those constructor need to be implemented in the derived class. So to solve this, I can use just this tip from the Visual Studio Code, or I can just manually create a constructor and call the base class as constructor. So let's use this feature for the time being. And you can see here, it created a constructor for developer with the same parameters as the base class. And inside, all it is doing is it is using this keyword called super. The super keyword is nothing but it is calling the constructor of the base class, passing these parameters. So why this is necessary? Because the developer class is deriving from the base user class, in turn it has to initialize all the variables and properties of the base class, which is done through the constructor. Hence, the constructor of the child class has to call the constructor of the base class. And the way to do it using the super keyword. So that is what we have done. So at this point in time, if we go to helloworld.java, we can just use developer and just rename this to dev. And now you can see the error is gone. We are not seeing the error anymore because developer is not an abstract class. It is a normal class which extends the base user class. Now at this point in time, the user class do not have any abstract method. The abstract keyword can be used with a class as well as method. So now let us go ahead and create an abstract method. And for abstract method, we are going to use the protected keyword. So we can say protected, which means any method which is declared as protected can be accessed in the same package and subclasses. Void set user string name, and we need to add the keyword abstract. So now we created an abstract method called setUser, which returns void, takes a parameter string name. Now if we go back to the child class, we're going to see the error again, and this time it is saying the type developer must implement the inherited abstract method setUser. So we can quick fix the problem, but all we are doing is we are overriding. So we have used this annotation @override. So we are overriding the setUser method, which is defined on the base class. And here, ideally, we want to set the name to the incoming name. So we want to say this dot name, but you can see the name which is part of the base class is not showing up in this. The reason for that is the name is private. So we can change this to protected. As soon as we change this name to protected, now the name is accessible by the child class, and you can see the error is gone. and this name is now the name of the base class. So this way we can override a method inside of a child class which is defined as abstract in the base class. So this is at a high level how we can use abstract class and abstract method to create an abstraction layer. The other way, as I mentioned, is we can create an interface. So for creating an interface, we can create a class, and let's say the interface that we want to create is printer.java, and instead of class it's an interface, and it has one method. Let's say void print. Now this is not a very elegant example, but this is just for showing in the demo how we can use an abstraction using an interface. So we created a printer. Now when we create an interface, we can implement the interface to a class. So here we can say implements, and for implement we can say printer. So now we are implementing an interface called printer. Now the fundamental difference between extend and implement is that we can extend only one class. So we can have only one parent class for a child class, but we can implement multiple interface for a class. The error that we are getting is basically we have not implemented the print method. So we are going to click on the quick fix, which is going to implement the print method. And here we can do something like system.out.println, and we can print the name. As simple as that. So this is another way of creating an abstraction. And now here we can go back to hello world. At this time we can say printer def printer is equal to new, and we can say developer and at this point in time now we have created another abstraction using printer, and if we do def printer dot, we can see that the print method is the only thing which is exposed. We are not seeing the set user at this point in time because we are accessing the object through an interface which has the definition of only one thing, which is print. So now using this mechanism, we are able to hide the other implementation of the developer class and expose only the print method which we defined. The notify and the hash code, get class, all other are part of the base object class. Every class defined in Java is by default derived from a base object class. That is irrespective of any other base class we derive from. Everything gets derived from base object class. So we are going to see all the methods of base object class. But otherwise, the only method, the def printer, which is a printer interface object pointing to the developer class and creating an object, it can now show only the print method which is defined in the printer. But here, if we just get rid of printer and use var, now if we do def printer dot, we are going to see the print as well as set user, which are part of the developer class, not just the print method. Now here, instead of var, if I use user, which is the abstract base class, and now at this point, if I do def printer dot, you can see that now I do not see the print anymore. All I see is the set user and name. And the reason I'm seeing set user and name is because both are protected member which are part of the developer object by the virtue of protected being accessible to the derived class as well as the package. Now it's part of the same package, so I'm able to see it. So with this, we saw three variations. One variation is with abstract base class, where we are seeing only the method of the abstract base class. The other one was using the interface printer, where we were seeing only the method of the interface, which is print. And third one was using just var, which is the developer object itself or developer class itself, and in which case we were seeing both the methods of the interface as well as abstract class, because we are directly using the class object. So this is how we can use abstraction to expose only those behaviors that we want to expose. So this should clarify what do we mean by abstraction and how we can abstract certain features and expose only the one we want to expose through an abstract class and an interface. I personally prefer interface over abstract class because it has a lot of advantages, and I'm going to create another video to explain the main difference between an abstract class and interface. So that is all I wanted to cover for today's video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to this channel and you think you are getting value out of the channel, please subscribe to the channel. And thanks so much for watching this video.